Hi, Girl Scouts. It's great to see you. And welcome to Inspiring Futures tonight. I'm Katie Herstein, and I'm the Program and Events Manager at Girl Scouts of Colorado. And I feel very lucky to be the one to run this series called Inspiring Futures. It's a virtual series where we introduce our Girl Scouts to accomplished women in a variety of professions, so you can get to be inspired about what your future is going to look like. So we have a great partner that works with us to bring us this series, and that's College Invest. So College Invest is Colorado's college savings program. So College Invest makes it easy for you to save for your education after high school. So it's a great way of saying that they exist for one reason: that's help you and your families put away money for your inspired future. So it's kind of like a piggy bank but even better, because the money that your parents, your birthday money, grandparents, anybody put into this account, it grows and grows. And when money is taken out of that account for your educational experiences past high school, it's tax-free. So you don't get taxed on that money, which is quite a bonus. So it goes even further, and this money can be used for college anywhere across the country, or trade school, or even apprenticeship programs, which give you real world experience. So I have a daughter who's off at college this year, and we have a College Invest savings plan for her. And it's really been useful to help pay for her education. So we're going to hear a message from the CEO of College Invest, welcoming us to Inspiring Futures.
Hi, I'm Angela Beyer, CEO of College Invest, and welcome to this episode of Inspiring Futures. Through Girl Scouts, you've learned that if you can dream it, you can do it. And here at College Invest, Colorado's education savings program, we help you get there. And you're never too young to begin to imagine your inspired future. So how will you impact this world? Will you run your own business, invent a new technology, or maybe even discover a life-saving cure? But wherever your inspiration takes you, a College Invest savings plan can help make your dreams a reality. Now, prepare to be inspired.
That was a nice message from Angela. So a couple of housekeeping items. So we are recording this session. We have a YouTube channel for Inspiring Futures, which we put our recordings up on so that Girl Scouts can watch any of the professionals that we've had since January of 22. So check out that YouTube channel. It's pretty neat to see all these recordings on it. But we're happy to see your faces right now. When I do the editing of the recording, I'll make sure that your faces aren't seen on the recording, which will be public facing. So you can always use the chat. You can raise your Zoom hand or anything like that for us to communicate. So next up is our Girl Scout Promise and Law. If anybody wants to join me, chime in. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. And the Girl Scout law will be: I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. My Girl Scout troop, we love to sort of scream that last one because it's kind of fun. So next up, I want to introduce you to the architects that we have from Kephart tonight. So we have Aaron and Janet Grady here to talk to us about Kephart and their jobs there, and careers and their education and everything like that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and have Janet and Aaron. I'm going to highlight you so everybody can see you.
Great.
There we go.
And I'm sharing too, so let me know if you can't see it.
Yep, but you've got it.
Awesome. Which means I can't see you guys, but Janet can. I'm Erin. So we are with Kephart. We're a firm in Denver, Colorado. We're in Rhino, near downtown. And one of our mottos at Kephart is that everyone deserves a well-designed place to live, work, and play. So as architects, we create the built environment, or the buildings that you guys walk through and live in and play in and learn in every single day. And at Kephart, we really believe that every single person deserves a well-designed place to do those things and live. So I became an architect about 2 years ago. I got my license. The path to become an architect for me looked like going to college, which would be a great place to use that college fund. I went to college for architecture. I got my master's degree, and then I started at a firm. It's called an internship is your first job, and you get a bunch of hours that you log, and then you take a bunch of tests, which does not sound fun, and it's not, but it pays off in the end. You take a bunch of tests, and then you get to be called a licensed architect, and you have a stamp that has your name on it that says you are an architect in that state, and you get to sign the drawings to send to the city to actually get built. Janet, do you want to introduce yourself as well? If we can hear her.
No, I can't hear Janet.
Okay, I can introduce her while she's doing some tech things. Janet works on our construction administration team, which is called CA. So Janet works with the builders on the field. So on the job site, she works with the builders to help them understand our drawings and our design and help them solve problems in the field. And she's really their main point of contact until the building gets built. So a project starts on my team and then eventually goes to Janet, who helps the builders figure out how to put everything together and make a building. Janet, feel free to chime in as soon as you're able to. So at Kephart specifically, we're pretty proud of this fact that 39% of our office is women. For a long time, there weren't a lot of women in architecture. It's kind of what's known as a part of the STEAM family, which is usually just science and math. But when you put that A in there, that's art and architecture. So it is, for a long time, it's been a lot of men, and the trend has been growing, as you can see on that little chart there, that more and more women are joining this profession. We're seeing that in the school programs, about 50% of the classes are women now, which is huge. When I started, I think we were maybe 20% of our class, and maybe even 5 years before that, it was less. So it's definitely growing, and that's a really good thing. You can see on the image on the right is a site visit that Janet led, and all of the people that came to the site visit with her ended up being ladies from our office, which was really great. We also have 24% of our office is licensed. You don't have to be licensed to work in architecture. That's just an extra step. And then 3 of that 24% are women. We have about 5 that are working through their tests right now. So we should have even more pretty soon, which is pretty cool. So this is kind of the life of a project. It goes from a sketch that our design team works through, and then they give that to my team, which is the drawing team, and we turn it into a rendering, and we make drawings for it with floor plans and sections and elevations and all of the details so that the builders can put everything together, and then eventually it becomes reality. So this is a sketch. This is actually a rendering. It's not real. It's a digital image that we created in our office, and then this is from that same view of that building, and some of you might recognize this. It's called the Henry. It is off the highway, so if you're driving into town from the south side, you might see this building every once in a while, and that is one that our office has worked on. So on the left, this is kind of a little snippet of what a floor plan looks like. The little arrow right here, the blue arrow, is kind of where this photo is taken. So you can kind of see how those walls in the plan on the left look in real life on the right side. So you can see the glass wall that the guy's doing yoga inside of is also on this part of the floor plan outside of the yoga room right here. So it kind of is cool to see how we visualize spaces. We usually look at stuff from top down. We aren't usually looking through the space how you would experience it, but looking at how it would get built and what that looks like in plan view, which is where it would be cut horizontally and you're looking down as if you were flying. This is in the construction side, which is where Janet takes over on the project. The room on the left is while it's during construction, before the floor is down, but some of the finishes have started to go up. Janet goes in and helps problem solve and check the quality of some of the work, see if there are any issues that didn't really follow our drawings or our design intent, and helps them figure out how to make the solution and fix it. And then on the right is, of course, that finished product where people are actually living in and working out and exercising and using the full cycle, drawings to building to completion. So I want to see if you guys can draw like an architect. If the pepper on the left was cut in half and you were looking down on top of it, what do you think that would look like? So this is why we wanted you to bring your pencil and paper to try to sketch out what you think that would look like from the top. And then also if it was cut this way and you were looking at it from the side, that would be a section. What would that look like?
So Girl Scouts, a great time to grab your paper and pencil, and on your own, you can draw these pictures.
So I'm gonna come back to the screen and stop sharing if I can. And if everybody could kind of take some time to do that sketch, and at the end, we'll show you what our drawings look like. So that you can see how you did. But in the meantime, does anyone have any questions for us for what it means to be an architect?
I have a question, Erin.
Yeah.
So do you spend most of your time collaborating with other people in your firm?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, almost all of the time. Most of the time I'm talking to a lot of people. No project is one person. So even on the design side of it, when it's the initial phase where they're sketching, there's a team of people that are working through the design together and talking about what they think that should look like. And then they usually get me involved or someone like me to look at if it works from a buildable or building code, because we are always trying to make buildings safe. That's part of our job, is to make sure it's a safe space for everybody to be in, and that it follows the city's rules for how it needs to get built. So we're always working with other people to figure out the design. And then once it gets to me, it's not just me working on the drawings. Currently, I have a team of 3. Sometimes I've been on bigger teams where it's 5 of us. Sometimes there's only been 2 of us. So you are always talking to other people. And then beyond my office and just my direct coworkers, I'm also always talking to the people that own the building, the people that will be running how the building is used. We call them consultants. They're the engineers that help work out how the structure works or how the building stays cool or hot, how it gets water. All of the engineers, we work with them as well. So you're constantly talking and collaborating and communicating with a lot of people, which is super fun.
Yeah, I bet. Girl Scouts, do you have any questions so far? Do any of you have Legos at home?
That is like every architect's origin story, is that they liked Legos when they were little. I remember when I first started school, one of our teachers asked, why are you wanting to get into architecture? What do you like about it? And probably about half of the class said that they just really liked building stuff with Legos or making doll houses and things like that as a kid.
Right. Looks like we have one question from Flexi Girl.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the buildings?
How do we what?
Come up with like the buildings, like what size and stuff?
Yeah, so there are a lot of restrictions and requirements, rules that you have to follow on a project lot. It's called a site. So there are things called property lines that limit the size. There are area sizes per floor that the city says we can't do more than. There's also area or size of the space that is limited because of how many people will be in it. You don't want to create a space that has too many people, because then if something happens that they all have to get out of the building, like a fire or an emergency, then they have to be able to actually get out of it. So we do have limitations for that as far as the size goes. But coming up with the buildings outside of that, there are a lot of factors. We usually come up with something called a site story, where we look at what the buildings around the property we're looking at look like and try to kind of make sure our building fits into all of the other buildings around it. It doesn't look like this weird glass box next to a big brick building. So we use a lot of things around the site to kind of tell a story about what that building should look like. I think I saw a couple questions in the chat as well. What types of engineers help you guys? So we have a lot. There are engineers called civil engineers that work on what the ground and the earth, how that flows around the building. We have landscape architects, so not really an engineer, but another architect that works with about all the plantings and the gardens around the property. And then we work with structural engineers to look at the load, how heavy the building is, how it stands up. And then mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers help with how the power turns on, how hot or how cold the building stays, and how the water and bathrooms and sinks work as well. It gets complicated with engineers. Does anyone else have questions? Yes, and we try to make our buildings look fun too, is what Janet is adding. She's totally right. We do try to make them look fun, and we think about how the sunlight comes into this space and how that makes you feel, and how you can actually use a room. So at our office, we usually are drawing apartment buildings. So we think a lot about how somebody living in that apartment would be able to use the kitchen, and how their furniture would get laid out, and how the bathroom would work for them, and are there enough closets, which there never are, and all of those factors that go in. So it's a good, fun, usable room. And fun shapes and colors.
Yeah. Do you, I have to remember my question. Oh yeah. Do you ever take buildings that are existing and say they're old buildings and they're not useful anymore, or repurpose them from something to apartments and residential buildings? Or is it, an empty lot and you have to start from scratch?
Yeah, so it depends. At our office, most of our projects are new buildings. That's just something that we specialize in, new construction. I have worked on a project recently in the last year where it was an office space. It was supposed to be for restaurants or stores, which of course the owners were having a hard time getting people into that space because of the pandemic. And we repurposed it into 7 townhome units instead. So that was a change in what that building was before and becoming something else. I also personally worked a lot on putting restaurants into retail spaces that were already built as well. So there are a lot of different ways and different types of architecture to work on. And 100% we still build with Legos. I saw that question in the chat as well. And it is absolutely still fun.
And Legos are just getting bigger and better. And the Lego store at New York City is quite something.
Yes. Yeah. And all of our projects nowadays are drawn in a computer program. It's called Revit, is what we use at our office. It makes the 3D buildings. And sometimes it feels like a video game when you're moving like kitchen cabinets around a space to see how to get them to work. It just feels like you're playing a game when you're really telling them how to build a building, which is pretty fun. Any other questions? No?
Not sure if you can hear me.
Oh, yes, you're back, Janet.
Oh, you can? Okay. So sorry about that. Do you want to see some photos? Did you already go through that? Sorry,
No, go for it. I would love to see some construction photos because this is fun for me too.
Okay. These were just a couple of just kind of bright, cheery, fun ones. So let's see. I'll get this guy out of the way. Oops. Sorry, I'm not as familiar with Zoom. Okay. Okay. Okay, so you guys can probably see this now.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a few years old, but I just wanted to put out there that, sometimes we just have fun with things and colors and textures. And this was a clubhouse. And here's some photos of some exterior buildings where, again, the use of color and shapes might come in. Here's the inside of this one clubhouse. It was designed for a younger crowd. So thinking it would just be, you can see the cool light fixture on the ceiling. And that is the workout room. They're not
Is that
all
you,
quite
Janet?
this bright. Yeah.
So
that's
actually,
me.
can you actually explain what that is, what your outfit is?
Oh, great. That is called, we call it PPE, which stands for Personal Protection Equipment. So you have to wear steel-toed boots in case you step on like a nail or something like that. It protects your feet. We have to wear long pants. We have to wear a shirt that has sleeves that are 4 inches or so longer. And we need to wear a bright colored safety vest or a bright colored shirt so that everyone can see us and stay out of our way with large trucks on a construction site, and a hard hat to protect our head. So it's kind of fun.
Yep.
It's like Bob
You feel
the Builder.
very official when you walk on the job site and you've got all of the equipment. It's very fun.
This was just the countertop. I just thought I'd throw in some random photos. These were little cartoon tiles that were added to this fireplace. And there's that funky light fixture. And again, just the bright colors. So yeah, I just thought that would be interesting.
Pretty cool.
Are there any other questions?
Do you have to wear gloves?
No, you do not have to wear gloves, except if it's very cold, then you need the gloves because
Right.
you have to be outside. But you do have to wear safety glasses, and sometimes we wear sunglasses but to protect your eyes from things that are blowing around.
Yeah, sometimes a job site has a lot of stuff going on. The walls aren't closed, so you see all of the woods. They're called studs. You see all of them, all of the pieces of the wall. There's sometimes wires that are being run, so you don't want to step on anything you shouldn't be stepping on, but they are pretty fun to walk around. The most rewarding part for me as an architect is seeing the things that I drew start to come together in real life, because for a very long time, you're only thinking about it as this imaginary thing that might become real someday. And then when you actually get to walk through this place that you've been drawing and putting together and designing, it's really cool to see it work and see people using it. Okay, I think, how's everyone's drawings? Are we good? You've mastered the pepper? Okay, I'm going to share my screen again and we're going to see how you did.
I can't wait to see these peppers.
Me too. All right, so here's what ours looked like. So this was the floor plan. So if it was cut, if you remember, this is what it looked like. It was cut right here. You go down, this is kind of what it looks like. And in architecture drawings, we like to call out things that are important, like the skin of the pepper or the seeds of a pepper. What are the important parts of that? You can see there's a lot of sketches behind it of he might have done some revisions for what this looked like. And then on this side, that's the section, if it was cut this way. And again, called out the stem and the seeds and the skin. So how'd you guys do? Everyone do pretty good?
Let's see.
Flexi Girl's got some. Oh yeah, you got the seeds in there. That's pretty good.
If you guys have any peppers at your house, this would be a pretty cool night to ask your mom if you could cut the pepper with her.
Yes, and you can do that for a lot of different vegetables too. Just say you need to practice making floor plans, and you can do it for
Like
watermelons.
Alice has got one too. Oh, we lost your video, Alice. Oh, there you are. Cool.
I see you. Nice.
Nice.
Good
job. Good job, Alice.
I really like to do this myself because snacks are great, but also it's fun to practice drawing by hand since we do draw on the computer a lot. So I like to sketch around, or sometimes I'll sit in a coffee shop and draw what it would look like in plan, because that's always fun to use your brain a little bit and try to see how it goes together. Cool.
So did you spend a lot of time, like if you think back to these girls are between kindergarten and 5th grade,
Mhm.
did you spend a lot of time with boxes and, creating forts and all
Yes.
these fun things of, trial and error, and even card houses? I remember taking cards and trying to make sure that the card house stood up.
Yeah, I also played a lot of Sims because I liked building the houses in Sims.
Yeah.
But I also remember trying to rearrange our living room a lot and trying to change the layout of our furniture. Or my mom would cut out, we used a graph paper, and she would cut out pieces of furniture on the graph paper, and we'd draw kind of the size of the room. So we'd measure the space and draw it out. And then I had these little pieces of paper that I could use to move around the furniture to see if I could make it more fun. Most of the time it was just to make it more fun. Maybe it didn't work as well, but it was more fun at least.
And I have another question. I'm full of questions.
Good.
So when in your schooling, were you able to sort of take some classes that were more targeted towards architecture?
Yeah. So personally, I started taking what they're called drafting courses in high school. In high school, I started taking some computer drafting classes. So that got me into learning how it gets put on the computer. And then when I went to college is when I first started looking at building design and all of the other parts of architecture besides just the drafting. What about you, Janet?
Well, pretty much the same. It all started in high school with drafting
Mhm.
classes. So, and then I've worked at Capart over, I guess it's been about 25 years. So it was really at the time that there was a lot more mentorship with just a smaller office, and just at that time that we were just going right from paper to computers. So back in the day. But to go back to probably something I know you talked about earlier, Erin, is that for my path, I would say that going through construction management would be the way to go for what I do in the architecture firm. So there's more than one path to take. You can be an architect, or you can also go through construction management, which is usually less schooling and more hands-on.
Less tests, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I saw a question in the chat. Can you tell us how you use math in architecture? So yeah, the question got asked again. So we do use math quite a bit, but not as much as a lot of people think. So we do use math when it's looking at dimensions or the spacing and size of rooms. So there are a lot of requirements around clearances. They're called clearances. So people in wheelchairs or that have other mobility issues can still use the space. So sometimes we have to do some math to make sure those clearances fit between all of the different parts of a kitchen or in a bathroom. We don't really do the math of the building standing up. That's what the structural engineer's for. So you have to understand how the weight of something on a roof, like a bunch of snow, carries down through your building, because it needs to be held up by the building, but you don't need to have to calculate or do the math to figure out what that number is. Did that answer that question?
And a lot of times we try to simplify the math.
Yes,
Is
very
now
true.
that a lot of things are on the computer, we realize that when they go to build it, they really need it to be a little bit more simple. So we sometimes have to go through a process of making it a little bit more simple.
Mm-hmm.
And
we
not
do a
so
lot
exact.
Yeah, we do a lot of simple math. So nothing really complicated. That's really more what the structural engineer does. But we do a lot of simple adding and subtracting of feet and inches, which are not easy to add and subtract, but we do a lot of that. And some, we also have multiplication to figure out the area of a room. You'll take the dimension it is wide and the dimension it is long, and that tells you the square footage. So we'll do that math too. But Janet's right. A lot of the times the computer does a lot of that for us. And when we're doing math, it's either checking it or making sure it's clear for the contractor so he doesn't have to do math in the field. Cool. All right.
Anybody else have a question?
What is the usual amount of time to do every step? And how many hours do you work each day? So the usual time to do each step of a project changes based on the project and how big it is. For the project I'm working on right now, it's a 3-story apartment building that has 81 apartments in it. So it's we call that a medium-sized project. It took 6 to 8 months for the initial sketch and design, and then another 5 months for the next part where we start to develop the details and pick materials and lay out the spaces. And then for the final part of my side, which was drawing the construction, they're called construction documents for the builders, that is another 3 months. So it's a pretty quick one. I worked on a project where it was 1 year for the entire design part, and then Janet takes over and she can tell you more about how long that takes.
Well, it varies depending on the size of the project, but it's usually a year and a half to probably 3 years to finish building a building. Usually a year and a half to 2 years is pretty typical of either one of our large buildings, or if there's multiple buildings on a site, is usually about a year and a half.
And then how many hours we work in a day kind of also varies, but we at our office work really hard to keep everybody at normal hours. So we work 8 hours a day on average. I get to have the fun thing of working an extra hour every day, so I get every other Friday off, but that's a little benefit of our company. But we do work really hard to stay within normal working hours, which is 40 hours a week. Right. I think I got all of the questions in chat. Let me know if I missed any. Have you ever gone to another country for your job? I have, actually. I worked on a hospital in Canada that I went to for a job site, which was pretty cool. It depends on who you work for. I have a lot of friends that are architects that are working on stadiums in other countries. One of them worked on the Birdcage Stadium in Beijing. So they got to fly out to China to look at how it got put together, which was pretty cool. So there's definitely a lot of chances for you to travel around. At my last job, I worked with a company that had an architect, a licensed architect in every state. So we had projects all over the country, and I was traveling a lot between Pennsylvania and Florida and California. So you can get a lot of traveling in for the job if you want it. You don't have to. It's not a requirement. Make sure that's clear. You can just stay in the one state all the time. What was the biggest project you did? Gosh, what is our biggest project, Janet? We have a couple. I have a 13 floor apartment building that I worked on in the last year, but it hasn't been built yet.
The biggest I've done was 7 stories, but it was quite large. It was the Henry.
Which was the one you saw photos of.
But once you get taller than that, it's usually the building is not made out of wood anymore. It's made out of steel. Yeah. And I have not done a full steel building.
What was our most important project? That's a great question. I think the project I'm working right now is my most important project. We do some. Oh, sorry. I should say we do a lot of projects for affordable housing that is really impactful to people that don't can get housing in other ways. So that's really important. We did do some design ideas for a women and children's shelter one time. So I would say usually the affordable housing projects feel like, and the senior projects as well. Senior housing. I think, we work in creating homes, and I think every single one of those is important because everybody deserves to have a place to live. So I think all of those are really important projects. How many people work at your work? So we have 87 employees right now. I think we have 87-ish people, but a lot of architecture firms have different numbers. I worked at an office that had 12 people, and I've worked at an office that had over 200 people. So you can really find what size works best for you, and it's definitely available in this industry.
And I guess I wanted to add to that too, that we tend to do larger buildings, but you can also be an architect that just builds a home for one person and their family.
Yep, that's also true. You can build schools, hospitals, offices, any building that you walk through, somebody drew and designed.
Awesome. Well, do we have any more questions from anybody? Girls, do you want to tell us about any building experiences that you have, either with your troop or at home? Or do you like to build forts? Do you draw things? Flexi girl, what do you do?
I like playing with Legos and making little houses, and so I like drawing and doing a bunch of art stuff. I even have like these big blocks up in my room, and I build like pretend houses with those.
That's so awesome.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Does anybody else like to draw buildings or build buildings or forts? Ah, horse barns and medieval buildings with Legos. Cool.
You know, those probably took an architect too. So you could build horse barns. Somebody has to draw a farm.
Yep.
Cool. Great.
Okay, well, I am going to share my video so you can see me again. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, girls. And thank you, Erin and Janet, for all your information about what it's like to be an architect and what that world is like, so girls can possibly see themselves there in the future and keep creating Girl Scouts. It's fun to just do that in your downtime after school or think about things like that. It's pretty awesome. So, oh, cool. That's neat. The cardboard multi-story buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, and Home Depot. Yes. Home Depot has things for you to build. That's right. I forgot about that. Oh, Ava has a question.
Yeah.
Ava, do you have a question? Oh, she put her hand down.
How much money do you make on a yearly basis?
So that is a huge range. It depends on what your role is in the job and at the company. So there's a lot of different levels of people in our office that make a lot of different levels of work. My very first job, which was when I had absolutely no experience, I made $15 an hour. And obviously that has gone up as I continue to work. But you know, you can kind of do some research. It depends on where you're living. And it depends on what level of experience, how many years you have, if you're a licensed architect, how much of the stress and responsibility you're carrying for your office also has a huge factor in that. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks again. And Girl Scouts, if you have any friends that missed the meeting tonight, again, it's being recorded, so it will be up on our YouTube channel. And also we have a patch that you're earning today. Let me just share my screen so you can see it. So this is the Inspiring Futures patch. And if you are first attending, this is the first Inspiring Futures that you've attended, you'll be able to get this main patch here. And then, I don't know, should we say this is STEM?
Yep.
The STEM field? What do you think? So we'll put it under STEM, but it's also, you know, if you're outdoors doing things with architecture, you're kind of covering the outdoors and life skills. And if you have your own architecture firm, it covers entrepreneurship. So
yep.
Yeah, so there we go. Covering lots of our 4 pillars of Girl Scouting. So I will be sending a form out for your caregiver to fill out, and you can tell them about the Inspiring Futures. And Flexi Girl, I know you've been here a few times. You must have some of the patches already, right? Awesome. Great. Well, Girl Scouts, do you want to unmute and say thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like waiting for everybody to say it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.